Good morning, students. So, today we are going to start another new chapter that is line of latitudes and longitudes. Perhaps you know that this is your second chapter. So, this chapter is very important in regard of you can say whatever we are going to discuss latitudes and longitudes, because without these latitudes and longitudes it is very hard to identify the any base of the earth surface. If you say that around you a number of satellites which are following you, or you can say the GPS system, by this we can say that your exact position of the latitude of you. So if you want to discuss one thing that uh, by using these latitudes and longitudes, we always try to find out the exact position of a country, exact position of a place, exact position of a person. If a person lost in a Sahara desert, if a person lost in a any forest area, but that person have, you consider some one GPS system, geologic, it is the geographical uh, mm, positioning system, so that time easily we can found out by using these latitudes and longitudinal uh, you can say the lines. Okay, so one by one we discuss slowly, we proceed slowly. Number of slides I have made for you, so one by one you are asked to watch it again and again. Okay, so let's start. First thing, before starting this you can say this position or the this chapter, so first thing you can say the lines of latitudes and longitudes help us to answer a key geographical question, that where I am. So if see that your position, so you can say that the where you are located, so that time you can say that I am located in at my home. I also can tell at my home, but in the geographical terminology, that your location should be identified by your location of the latitude and longitudinal extension. Okay, so that's why the lines of latitudes and longitudes refer to the grid system of an imaginary line you will find on a map or a globe. So if you take example this one, so that time you can find it, that what you are finding, that some of these you can say that the latitudes, these are called the latitudes and these are called the longitudes. So parallel of latitudes and the meridians of longitudes form a invisible grid, you can say the grid over the earth surface, and assist the point in a pinpointing any location of the with the great accuracy. Every head is a unique grid, everyone whatever positions, and this is expressed as a the latitudes and longitudes coordination. So if you take example this position, this is called the longitude, one of the longitudes, and this is called the latitudes. Okay, so this position is your, okay, the cross point. So first thing what we have to write down, that the what we have to know, that is the latitudes. So latitude is an imaginary line which are you consider run through, you can say the east to west and parallel to the equator. So equator, one of the that is called the 0 degree, and this is also considered as a great circle. Okay, so equator is 0 degree above. Here you can say the 101, after 1 degree, 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, that is 90, and in the southern hemisphere that is the also 90. So equator divides earth surface into two. First one is the northern hemisphere and second one is the southern hemisphere. Okay, so in the northern hemisphere above the equator there are 90 latitudes, and above the below the equator there are also 90 90 latitudes. Okay, next we can have to discuss that the meridians or the prime meridian, that is a 0 degree, that is also an imaginary line which is passes through Greenwich, that is the 0 degree. So above the 0 degree in the north, on the basis of the prime meridian, we can divide Earth into eastern hemisphere and western hemisphere. In the eastern hemisphere, there is 180-degree longitudes. In the western hemisphere, there are also 180 180 longitudes. Okay, so all together these lines, latitudes and longitudes, make a casing like shape. Okay, so this is called the coordinates. So lines of longitudes are the horizontal lines, and they tell us the whether a place is located in the northern or the southern hemisphere. Okay, so this one by one we have to discuss. So northern and southern hemisphere we can say on the basis of the equator. So equator, you can say the equator. So all the latitudes which are drawn after the 1 degree equal 1 degree, that is, you can see in the northern hemisphere 90 and southern hemisphere also 90. So coming to the next slide, as you can see the facts about of the latitude. So we already discussed the latitudes at the imaginary line which are drawn parallel to the equator. Okay, so equator is the 0 degree line. North of the equator, northern hemisphere, we already discussed. South of the hemisphere, it is also a southern hemisphere. So line of latitudes of the cross the prime meridian and right angles, that is the 90 degrees. So this is the 90 degree. This is also called the north pole. In the south also there is a south pole. So lines of latitude circle globes. You can see the world is an east and west direction. So latitude always the latitudes, lines of latitudes, perhaps you know the globes in the east or west direction. So it is our time duty. So a line of latitudes also known as the parallels. Why it is parallel? Because it is drawn on the parallel of the equator. So this is all the latitudes are always a parallel. So line of latitudes measures the distance